Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sports Guys Iowa Show. Today, I'm excited because we've got two great guests. We got Pat Schiltz from Midwest Sports Plus, and we've got Coach Ras Vanderloo, the legendary Sioux City East coach. If you're listening to this on Apple and Spotify, you won't be able to see that Coach is sitting, looks like in Florida right now. Right, Coach?
I'm actually in Florida this weekend working at a camp involving Jay Billis and a bunch of talented kids. I'm a basketball dork anymore. It's what I do. But I'll be back in the state tomorrow night and getting ready for the state tournament. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, you're doing some broadcasting there, right, Coach?
I am starting on Wednesday. I got the 2A games Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So that'll be fun. But I enjoy the whole tournament. I'll be there the whole time.
Yep. And Pat does games, for those of you that follow Midwest sports, all over the state. Today, we are going to talk boys basketball. And I know you guys want to start with the smaller classes and work your way up. Let's talk about the state tournament. Who do you think has that opportunity to bring home the hardware this year?
Pat, you want to start her off?
Sure. The 1A class, I was able to do the Boyd and Hull sub-state game. So I did get to see them. And I think it's a lot of high-scoring teams, which you see a lot of times in 1A. It's going to be exciting. I really believe St. Edmund and Burlington Notre Dame is going to be two of the higher scorers in the state. Hunter Horn for St. Edmund and Shane Steffens for Burlington Notre Dame could be a great shootout. And we see, as in the girls tournament, when you have that standout scorer, boy, you've got a big advantage. And I believe those two will, you never know, but I believe they'll move on. And in the lower bracket, seeing Boyd and Hull, boy, they're just tough all the way around. Just a solid basketball team. I can't see them not winning the lower bracket, if you will, and go on to the state title game. And Burlington, Notre Dame, and St. Ed, if they get there, you never know. It's just going to be interesting. But I'm really leaning to the winner of the top bracket to go on and win the state title.
There's a lot of truth to that, Pat. First of all, any team that's good enough / lucky enough to make it to the state tournament has a chance. I've been a part of it as a higher seed, a lower seed, the middle seed, you name it. I've seen it all. I do think St. Ed's is probably the king of the group. MMCRU, you can't count them out. They're the 2 seed. And that game of MMCRU and Boyd and Hall, I think, is for the first round matchup, could be a classic. I've seen Boyd and Hall play this year. They're tough. Like you mentioned earlier, Pat. MMCRU's used to winning down there, so they got that going for them. They're just coming off a great football season. Those kids, they're used to success and winning. I think St. Ed, if it comes down to a St. Ed, MMCRU, I'm going to go with MMCRU just because I'm going to go against Pat.
But you just like Coach Bowerk.
Yes, correct. I think in 1A, there's several teams, and we've mentioned most of them. You've mentioned Dame. Like I said, Garrigan's got a nice team. MMCRU, St. Ed, Boyd and Hall. Like I said, there's a group. There's probably 5 teams in 1A that could win it.
To pick up on Raz was saying, you just never know. But the one thing I've noticed as I've looked at the rosters and some of the stats, the guy that stands out, I watched him play for Boyd and Hull, 6'5", Garrett Van Ness. I think he's the difference maker. Raz, you've seen it a million times. When you've got a 6'5" long athlete that can do it all, that's a big benefit.
It's a huge benefit. It really is. And he's a big, strong kid. He plays hard. There's a lot of kids that can play, but when you have that one kid like that, an athlete like him, I know you got a chance. You got a chance to win 3 games next week in Des Moines. I do know that. I think it's going to come down to that 1 and 2 seed, St. Ed and MCRU for a title shot. And I've been wrong before, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Raz, about that it's a 5-day grind, but 3-game grind. That you just cannot undervalue the momentum just within that week, can you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely not. You get off to a good start and you can ride that thing for a couple days. Now, they're going to have a day off in between there. The 1A is the way the scheduling is this year. Their first games are going to be on Tuesday. Then they're going to get a day off so they can play all the 2A games, and then they'll come back Thursday. So they're going to have at least one day off. Now, the 2A class, they're Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They're 3 straight days, which these are young kids. They're athletes. You know, some people complain about it a little bit. It's too many games. There's a lot of games in 3 days, but these kids are used to playing 3 games in a day in the summertime. So it's not as big a deal as you think. It's probably a bigger deal on the coaches and preparing for the games than it is for the athletes themselves.
Coach, going into the 2A, we're more familiar with this team because of the powerful teams up here in Northwest Iowa, but it's just going to be a fascinating 2A tournament this year with a championship game in the first round between Unity and Western.
100%. Those that haven't seen these two teams play, they're both potential champions. I know Western's a 7th seed, but don't ever count them out. They're the defending state champions. They're used to winning. They got an outstanding coach. They got tradition coming out their ears. These kids, when they show up, they're planning on winning. I know that. Unity has an outstanding team and has already beaten Western during the season. That's a factor that plays into it. Kemper, they got athletes. Wow. And once again, coming off another great football season. Regina, Iowa City, Regina, full of players. Don't count out Trainer. I seen them early in the year beat a Heelan, a 3A team. Appleton Parkersburg coached. So there's a lot of factors in 2A that's going to go into winning 3 games this next week. I really think there's probably 4 teams that can win it. Kemper, Unity, Regina, and Western. That's not counting out the teams that I didn't mention. Obviously, Union, Appleton Parkersburg, Grundy Center, and Trainer have good teams, strong traditions. But I just think one of those 4 I mentioned, pull it out of a hat, and you're going to be the winner. And that's Kemper, Unity, Regina, and Western.
Yeah, that's an amazing first round game with Coach Keitzer. His basketball team uncharacteristically struggled towards the end of the year, but they're playing great basketball right now. And they have their super soft Taden Moret, who is just a big time player, a lot of experience from their defending team last year. And here they are this year. And of course, Unity with that great guard play. Dylan Bosma, 2,000-point score in his career. What a great first round basketball game. But as you mentioned, Regina, the ghost of Mark Gannon may be coming back. Who knows what's going to happen with Regina, but they're a super basketball team that, like you said, has a big chance. And of course, we've seen Kemper and a solid basketball team. They've battled injuries, but they've stayed together. And that late win over powerful 3A Storm Lake was surprising. Ryan Clare, 18 points a game, 11 rebounds, great athlete, and one of those guys we like. Everybody likes Ras, certainly. 6'4", athletic, and can do it all.
Oh, absolutely. Kemper is full of multi-sport athletes. Their athleticism might be the difference in this class. There's several teams that can win it. There's some outstanding coaches in 2A. There really is. I can't talk enough about them. But 2A might be a crapshoot. It really might be with the matchups and things. But I think that Unity Western matchup, if you're just a basketball fan and want to see a good one, get there on Wednesday afternoon for that one, because I think it could be a barn burner.
Will you have that game, Ras?
Yes, I will.
Great. I'll be tuning in from Palm Springs. You're not the only one. You're not the only one hitting the sunshine this week, my friend.
Oh, that's good. Good stuff.
But 2A should be great. Ras, you talked about a lot of times. You and I talk all the time. But one thing, with your career at East High, the great football tradition, and then the basketball, you talked a little bit about Carol Kemper coming off that huge football season. What is the value in your mind about having that great football, that great basketball program in the same year?
Well, I was told many years ago by a legendary coach, Walt Fiegel, that if you start your year off with a good football team, the rest of your school year and sports year is going to be good. And I've seen it so many times when teams that are playing in the Dome late in the fall in November are the same teams in March at the state tournament in basketball. Kids, they're a lot of the same athletes. Kids are used to winning. They know how hard you have to work to get there. You don't make the state tournament because your name is whatever. You got to work at this thing. You got to prepare. The coaches got to work at it. The players do. The fans are supportive. They're used to traveling to wherever you're playing, giving you unbelievable support. So it's not a shocker when you see the same names a lot in the fall and in the winter with these teams. It's not. It's very common. But everybody that makes it is good. Everybody has a chance. You got to win 3 games in a week. What an experience. And like I said, I've been on all sides of it. It's incredible.
Ras, do you believe that once you get down to the state tournament, we've heard this many times before, especially teams that repeat a lot, you're really not part of that until you win that first one. How hard is it to win that first game?
It's hard. First of all, it's hard to win any games. I mean, I know there's people out there that think that every team should win every game, and if you don't, the coach is terrible and blah, blah, blah. I've heard all that 42 times. Okay. Throw that out the window. It's hard to get to the state tournament. And once you get there, it's hard to win games. It's hard to win one game. It's hard to win two, and it's hard to win three. It takes everybody. It takes coaches. It takes the team managers. It takes video guy. It takes the players, the fans, everybody all packaged into one deal. And those are the teams that are probably going to win because they all believe in each other. It's a culture deal. It's a teamwork deal, and it all fits together in winning a state championship.
Okay, let's jump over to the 3A, John and Raz. And the 3A, again, another great brag. Very excited about this because we've broadcast numerous teams here, and Ballard and ADM play a style of basketball that make the old Tarts Running Rebels back in the late 70s, early mid. They're just up and down the floor. They can score points galore. Outstanding basketball teams. And then we have the human highlight film, Jaden Kuhn and his Storm Lake basketball team. We had Jaden's sub-state game in front of just a huge crowd, Storm Lake. They're going to bring everybody in the area there. I am really looking forward to the Class 3A basketball tournament. It's just going to be fantastic.
No, Pat, you mentioned those big three, Ballard, ADM, and Storm Lake. I got to believe if you're going to try to pick a champion, one of those three picks would be probably a pretty good choice. All three of them can win it. They all play the right way. They're well coached. There's some superstars involved. You mentioned Jaden Kuhn, the young man going to Creighton. He is a highlight film. If you like dunks, okay, if you're into that world, go to the game, get down there and see Storm Lake play, because I will guarantee you're going to see some incredible dunks. He's a crazy athlete. He's got good size on him. Pat, me and you were down in Council Bluffs this year when they played a very good Omaha team, and I didn't give them a chance in the world, and they won the game. So they're capable of beating any team in the state. Now, Ballard and ADM are very good as well, so don't count them out. And then you got a team like Xavier. Talk about a sense of winning. I don't think that they've ever lost in anything. They win in every sport. You hear that name, you think they're going to win. So they're not showing up to lose. I know that. Solon, another team that's got athletics, a history of athletics in all their sports. Out of their teams, they support them. So you can't count them out. Carroll High. Okay, we've already talked about Kemper. Now we got two teams from Carroll in the state tournament. So it's a wide open deal, but I do think those big three at the top, probably the winner is going to come from there just because of the firepower they have as a team.
Your reference against Omaha West when Storm Lake beat them in triple overtime. I had two people talk about that out of the blue yesterday, even. So they're still talking about that game, which featured 14 dunks, John, from 7 different players.
I was there for that one with you, watching it live. That was a great game. And then, Coach, just to add on to what you said, I think ADM with Hudson Lorenzen, his dad, Todd, is the coach of Graceland University. He's a baller. He's their all-time leading scorer. If he's going, he can carry them all the way to state title himself. And Ballard's really balanced. They've got a guard, Jude Gibson, who can get in the paint on about anyone, who is blazing fast. And I think if they catch a team that can't keep him out of the paint, Ballard's going to go a long way.
No, I agree with all of that.
Go ahead,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. We talked about the 2A having a great bout, but Raz was talking about the tradition. A first round game, this is underrated. Pella, a traditional champion, and Carroll playing the very first round. That is quite a first round basketball game in the Class 3A. So that's going to be very exciting. This 3A bracket, as I said, I was excited to see it. Ballard versus Gilbert. Ballard will be the overwhelming favorite, but you know how that goes in the first round of the state tournament. Pella versus Carroll. ADM against Xavier, high scoring ADM against a very patient, physical, and big Xavier team. Then, of course, Storm Lake and Solon. If you think for 1 minute a dunk is going to rattle Solon, you better think again. But what a 3A basketball team. And as I look at it, that ADM Storm Lake game, maybe a semifinal, maybe not, could be a classic. And then you got Ballard hovering up there in the top bracket. But I really believe I've seen Storm Lake lose a game against a very good Sioux Falls Christian team. And I've seen them not play well, but I've also seen them play really well. When Jaden Kuhn is not settling for 3-pointers and they're putting him in the paint or getting him to come downhill, they're almost unstoppable, Raz.
No, tell you what they got. They got more than Kuhn. Obviously, he's a premier player. He gets all the hype. Okay. They got another guard, Boyd, tremendous. Tough guy, makes open shots. They got 2 more athletes in there. They got players. So everyone thinks, oh, everything's about Kuhn. A lot of it is because he's a premier player, but they got other guys too. So you can't forget about Storm Lake. They have the ability to win it. Absolutely. But so does Ballard and ADM. I know that too.
Cam Boyd, I like to call him the Larry Bird of Iowa high school basketball. He's just a fundamentally sound. His jump shot, we call that silent death, because just when you think you have Jaden Kuhn stopped, he kicks it out at 6'7", running point, hits Cam Boyd, who knocks that. The one factor for Storm Lake that they did not have last year is Trey Betcher, a 3-point shooter. And you saw him, John, against Omaha West.
I did.
Where he hit 5 3-pointers in a row in the second half. That is a big factor coming in for Storm Lake that they didn't have last year. Another thing that Coach Franzmeyer has done, and he's played a tougher schedule this year. He found out last year you can get away with the 1-3-1 and the junk defenses with the athletes he has. Can't do that against the ADMs, Ballard, the Xaviers, even Solon. So he's gone more to a very tough man-to-man defense and using his athletes more to create offense.
Pat, that's one thing I would really give a shout out to Storm Lake on. They came to the MLK event in Council Bluffs that you put on, and they played one of the better teams in Nebraska. They have really upped their schedule. I think from last year they got in and they maybe hadn't played the top schedule they needed to, and they got knocked out. I think that's going to really help them when they hit Des Moines, because they went out and challenged themselves. They didn't duck anybody this year. They played Kemper Catholic, too, one of the best teams in 2A. They went out and they scheduled up, and I think that's going to benefit them.
Yeah, we'll see. The 3A is just, I'm just intrigued by the whole bracket from game one. When you got a Pella Carroll first-round basketball game, that's something else. And talking to Coach Franzmeyer about his, he goes, oh, dang it. Anyone but Solon or Xavier.
Hey, it's Coach Vanderloo, when are the Corbers going to move back to Pella and their kids going to start to come through the program?
First of all, they're doing pretty good without him. I know that. If you add that mix to it, hold on. I know that. I know there's a few boys that can shoot the ball for sure.
You'll get back to, if you can get them to East, you'll get back into coaching.
You never know, Pat. It might.
Guys, John, Raz, here's 4A. And as intrigued as we are with 3A, 4A is just going to be outstanding. What a great field. We've seen all these teams. We've carried them on Midwest Sports Plus. Raz, you've been with us for those games. John, I know you've seen all these teams play. This is just going to be a remarkable basketball tournament, Raz.
Oh, I mean, it really will. You got the big boys. You got some powerhouse teams. Cedar Falls has had an incredible year. Everyone thought they'd be good. I think they're probably a little better than people thought. They're well coached. They're used to being in Des Moines. All those things are in their favor. You got Waukee and Waukee Northwest coming in. Cedar Falls played Northwest during the year, beat them. Dowling has played probably a little over their head in a good way. The bottom group of that, you got Dubuque Senior, another team that's used to win in Johnston every year is good. Prairie is probably a surprise of making it to the state tournament. Very well coached. And Urbandale has had a good uprising. They've been kind of down here a little bit for a while, but them making, I think it's great. I think for the Des Moines area, I think it's great when teams that haven't been there in a little bit show up. But I think the class of this, I think Cedar Falls and Waukee Northwest are two of the better teams. I'm not forgetting Waukee, so don't start shooting at me. I just, knowing the players that Northwest has, when you got 2 Big Ten recruits in your lineup, you have a chance. I know that. Now you got to play well. But and then Cedar Falls, top to bottom, is just loaded. But like I said, you still got to play the game. You still got to win the first game in order to get to the semifinal. You got to win the semifinal in order to get to the final. But I think we're setting ourselves up for some really good 4A games.
Had an earlier interview with a sports writer in Eastern Iowa, and we were talking about this, and we talked about the powerful teams. And as you said, Cedar Falls and Northwest Waukee, make no mistake, they're as good as we've seen over the last few years. And we actually have that game, the earlier game in December on Midwest Sports Plus. And I have never seen a basketball team play a quarter and a half as well as Cedar Falls did, as they jumped up over 20 against this talented Northwest Waukee basketball team. Now, Northwest Waukee came back made it a basketball game. And we were talking with John McCowan, the head coach at Cedar Rapids Kennedy, regarding the next state crossover team. And I said, we're going to get a rematch between Cedar Falls and Northwest Joaquin, because that'll probably be your state final. We'll see. But they've got some work to do. And Raz, as you said, this Urbandale team, that 14-8 record, I know the Cedar Falls Tigers are looking at this game as we better come to play on Monday, or it's going to be tough, because Urbandale can play against anybody.
Yeah. You look at Urbandale's scores, top to bottom, they're playing close games with every good team they've played. Okay, so I know kids are kids. They're going to go 14-8. Oh, this is going to be a blowout. I wouldn't call it a blowout. Cedar Falls better show up and be ready to go, because I guarantee you Urbandale's not going to lay down. And like I just said, they've played a ton of very good teams, close games. They may have lost, but even they've played them tough right down to the end. Don't count them out. Don't count anybody out. I've been on the good and the bad side of this deal. I remember going down thinking we're going to win the state championship. Cedar Falls beat us like a drum. And however they wanted to beat us, they beat us. And I just like, can I hit turbo on the clock and get this thing over with? And they went on to win the state championship with AJ Green and those good kids that had an incredible run with those guys. Great team. But Cedar Falls obviously has to be the favorite because they've beaten everybody. But don't count out Northwest. I know that. Great coach, great players. Now putting it all together, let's see what happens.
Raz, you talked about Northwest Waukee with Landon Davis and Rice both at 6'8" and 6'9", whatever. They both play much bigger
tall,
than that.
They're tall.
Going to Illinois and Nebraska. But these bigs, the Will Gertis and Lighton Wolf for Cedar Falls, are fundamentally as sound and skilled as two big guys I've ever seen in the guard, Jaden Kimbrough, who scored 30 in the first matchup. Just a loaded basketball team.
Absolutely. Plus a very good coach. So you had two good bigs, a good guard, very good role players and very good subs, and a very good coach. You got the perfect formula to win this whole thing. Now that still means you got to show up and do it. You know, when you get to Des Moines, I've mentioned this before on some stuff I've sent out. You got a high ceiling, you got no backdrop behind the hoop, and everybody thinks they're a three-point shooter. Guess what? If you're not used to shooting in a building like that, sometimes it's a little different than you think. Those guys that are shooting high 30 percentages or maybe higher from the three, maybe not be shooting that way when you get into those big buildings. So pay attention to that in all of the games, that your three-point kids may not be as effective as they are in your home gyms.
Raz, one of the things on the broadcast we talked about, Northwest Waukee, that their big guys are very athletic and have been able to guard other teams' guards, been so effective. They don't have that advantage against Cedar Falls, and it hurt them because big has to guard big in that basketball game. And if we've seen one thing about Northwest Waukee, when they shoot it, they're outstanding. But at times they lapse defensively, and it can bite you, especially when you don't have that matchup advantage they do against most other teams.
No, you're exactly right. The matchup with Cedar Falls is tough because bigs have to guard bigs, guards have to guard guards. I will say one thing. You win games in March with good guards and playing defense. Okay, I'm going to say that again if there's any kids listening. You win games in March with good guards and playing defense. So everyone's got to be able to guard. Keep guys in front of you. Everybody's a rebounder. Oh, the big guys are rebounders. No, everybody's a rebounder. When you're trying to win a state championship, everybody has to do their role.
I'd like to go down the games a little bit, Raz. You talked about, and John, Dowling Catholic, they control tempo. They just beat you. Yeah, and they're just, at the end of the game, they're ahead of you with sound defense and timely shooting. But they're playing a really good team in Senior Dubuque, who we also had earlier this year, and Pat Schiltz, the big guy for Senior Dubuque. What a basketball player, averaging 25 points a game with the defenses collapsing on him. Just a remarkable player. And he can step outside and he hits 3-pointers at a 40% clip.
You're into that 40%, you're a very good shooter. You don't got to be 50 or higher, but shooting a 40% clip from three, you're a very good shooter. I'll also say this about Dowling. They're one of those teams, like you said, they put you to sleep. They're not a highlight reel team, but at the end of the night, they're beating you because they're beating you with fundamentals. They're beating you with good coaching. They're not trying to out-fancy you. That's another thing. You lose games in March trying to be fancy. So kids, listen, stop being fancy, play fundamental basketball, rebound and play defense, and you'll have a chance.
I'm going to jump in on that one because
Okay.
I think that 4-5 game, we were talking, you look at these 8 teams, it's not unreasonable to say any of the 8 can go a long way, right? This is a loaded group. But in this particular one, I think Senior's been there 3rd year in a row. They've got Menninger and Porter and Schiltz, who are 3 core players who have led them. They're really hungry for this win. And I think they almost got Cedar Falls. Well, they could have had them right at the end of the year. I just feel like Senior is going to find a way this year, and I think Tevin's going to be a load inside. And if he can get a couple on Crane, I think Senior's going to win this one. But, of course, Dowling can beat him, but that's my prediction on that one.
Well, it's a great prediction. It's strange, but this is a testimony how good Cedar Falls and Northwest Waukee are. But Dubuque Senior's 21-2, and we're seeing them as a dark horse winner when they're really good.
They are very good, and they're a matchup problem as well. Like I said, against Dowling, if they could get Crane in some foul trouble, I could definitely see Senior pulling that game off. 3rd year in a row, that means something. When you've been there, it's nothing new. You're not all amped up and excited. You're happy you're there, but now let's get a win. So they're very capable.
No doubt, Raz. Then we're jumping to Waukee, John, a team you're very familiar with as well, against Prairie, who Raz mentioned earlier. Waukee has played some of the best basketball since mid-January. Not fancy, but at the end of the day, they're winning basketball games 56, 53, whatnot. That's going to be an interesting first-round game.
Yeah,
yes, it will.
Yeah, I would say, Pat, you did an event from their gym. You've been in their gym. They're a different team in their gym. That thing's a snake pit. They're all over you. They got skill. They control the pace in that gym. I think they're very capable of winning the state tourney. But I do think being out of the gym in Des Moines might pose some challenges for them.
Okay. Raz, I know you've talked about this many times. A big, good guy, Evan Jacobson, an outstanding guard, Max Roach. That's a good setting for a good basketball team.
Absolutely. Obviously, Jacobson's a big football kid. He's big, he's strong, he's a very good basketball player. Oh, he's a football player. No, he is, but he's also a basketball player and does a very good job. Then you put a good guard with him. You can do a lot of stuff in a 2-man game, clear it out to the backside and play those 2 on one side. Those are 2 good players. And then you got to figure out how to stop them. So when you have a good guard and a good big and you control the tempo, you got a chance. I know that. They're good enough to win their first game or 2. Like John mentioned, I think getting teams out of their comfort of their home environment hurts some teams more than others. And I think Waukee might be one of those, like you just mentioned. But I wouldn't fall asleep on them. I know that.
No, I wouldn't either. And Pat, they got Jay White. They've got Landon Hanson, who's playing D2. They've got talent up and down the floor. In most years, they'd be the odds-on favorite, right? They just happen to be in one of the most stacked 4A classes. But you broadcast Prairie at that same event in the crossover. I was very impressed by that team. Their spacing was perfect. They ran a lot of 5 out, really great spacing, good shooters. They had some size. Prairie's dangerous, guys.
So they're a fun team, and they have one of my favorite players this year by the name of Will Weir. Now, barely 6-foot guard, but he hits daggers. Well, we should call him the Iceman because he hits that tee shot. I won't say he'll disappear because he's always doing stuff, but when he may not score for a quarter and a half, and then boom, he'll just hit a shot that, wow. So their guard, Austin Jones, Caden Larson, they're a terrific basketball team too. And their experience, been down there a little bit, and they've won some big games.
They have won some big games, and they're well coached. Number one, I think if you have a good team and you're well coached, once again, you have a chance. So it's, like I said, this 4A field, obviously we got one at the top that probably is a little taller than everybody else, but if you told me who's going to guaranteed win, I'd say, maybe not. So I think those are going to be great games to watch.
And then the last game of the Class 4A, Johnston, it's got to scare you to death. I was texting back and forth with Coach Watson after his big sub-state game, and he said, good news, we made it to the state tournament. Bad news, we have Johnston the first round. Raj full well playing Johnston is like going to the dentist, baby.
and they're so familiar with each other. There's no surprises.
Mm-hmm.
Johnston knows exactly what they have to do in order to beat them. Like I said, everybody in the world's probably picking Northwest. But that's when games become more dangerous. You're going to beat them. It doesn't always work that way. Johnston has enough pride in their program and enough good history. They're going to show up to win the game.
Yep.
And they know what they got to do.
And Coach, they have Courtney Henderson, the helm, Waterloo East legend.
Oh, yeah.
They play like those old Steve McGraw teams, very disciplined. It's like watching them again. I wonder if Coach McGraw is going to come sit on the bench, Coach Henderson. But they've got Tino and Cavill, and they got a nice big. If their guards get hot, anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And they can get hot.
I call Coach Henderson the most patient coach in the world. It does not bother him to be down 6 to 12 points at halftime. He makes his adjustments, usually on the defensive end. And his team, they will, like I said, it's like going to the dentist playing Johnston. And it's a great matchup between high-flying Northwest Waukee with all that talent, all that shooting against just a grinding team like Johnston. What a great first-round matchup for us to watch, not Coach Watson.
For us to watch. And Waukee Northwest has a couple Big Ten guys. Rice can fill it up and had a 50 burger not long ago. Landon Davis is a high flyer. They've got some really good players around them. They got Dean Oliver's kid, who's a heck of a point guard, Isaiah. They've got Kukin, and they've got, who am I missing? Gosh, who am I forgetting? Heitland.
Yeah.
One of the top.
Your first team All-State quarterback.
Absolutely. And they've got some good bench players. So they've got talent. I think it's a lot of just who's on. And I think experience, guys, in my opinion, matters. Cedar Falls, they were there last year. Waukee Northwest knocked them out. They were undefeated coming in, but they've got experience. Waukee Northwest went all the way to the title game. I think that matters here. I think in a kind of a toss-up situation, I think you lean towards experience.
100% agree with that. You can't coach around experience. When kids have played in that facility, they play with the bright lights. Waukee Northwest has made it to the championship game. All those things matter. And I think at the end of the day, it is going to matter. And like I said, that 4A championship game on Friday, I think who's ever in it, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah. Hey, Coach, one other thing I wanted to bring up, because Pat and I have talked about this a lot. Coach Watson at Waukee Northwest, he went out and tried to build the most challenging schedule in the state this year.
Yep.
They even played the top team in Wisconsin who came down for a game. They played in all your events, Pat, every crossover classic, played one of the best teams in Nebraska. I think that matters when you're playing the best teams to get ready for the state tournament. I do think that's an advantage for them.
100% it matters. If you got a good team, you can go out and beat all the deadbeats. Us three could probably beat them if you guys were hitting. But when you got to line up and play another team from another state that's a state champion type team, and you're able to play with them and or beat them, it only makes you better. Now, if doing that, might you get one more loss? You might. Okay. But really, who cares? Because it made you better. Getting to the state tournament with a tough schedule behind you gives your chances just through the roof. So they've seen everything. They've seen marquee players. They've seen quick guys and tall guys and great guards. They've seen it all. So there should be no surprises this week in Des Moines.
Raz, we had the Northwest Waukee against Ankeny sub-state game, a terrific basketball game. Landon Davis just put on a social media clinic. Thank you, Landon, because we got just about 20,000 impressions on your dunk highlight film.
I thought that was because of me and you, Pat.
Oh, no, not quite. But
okay. All right.
Raz, you and I were talking during the game at the break. We're like, Ankeny is not playing poorly. And Mario Aguirre, of course, 41 points. It was just a fascinating game.
I mean, it really was. I'll give Ankeny all the credit in the world. They hung in there, and Aguirre obviously went crazy, 40-some points. But at the end of the day, the talent rose to the top. Rice and Davis and all those kids, Oliver, they rose to the top. Sometimes you can't replace talent. So talent normally sits up here. Coaching rises a notch. Experience rises a notch. Tough schedule. Getting to the state tournament the year before. So they got everything pulling in their favor.
Okay, guys, I'd like to go down the 4A games. Everybody give their prediction. We'll go all the way to see who will miss on winning the state title. We're going to start with Cedar Falls and Urbandale. Raz.
I'm going with Cedar Falls.
Okay, John?
Cedar Falls.
I think in a close one, but I think Cedar Falls is going to get scared all the way down. And what are they calling that Urbandale student section? They're going to be there raising all kind of havoc down there. That's just going to be, yeah. But I think with those bigs in Cedar Falls, they're going to win that basketball game as well. Dowling versus Dubuque Senior, another tremendous first round matchup.
I think a very close game, possibly an overtime game. I'm going with Dubuque Senior.
I'm doing the same. I think this is one of the best games in the first round. I'm going to go with Dubuque Senior.
And of our dark horses, Dubuque Senior possibly for the state title. So I think they'll, in a very close game again, we'll move on. Prairie versus Waukee, another good matchup.
Another good matchup. I think the game's going to be closer than people think. Don't count Prairie out, but I'm going to go with Waukee.
Yeah, I would almost echo word for word what Coach just said. I'm going to go with Waukee.
Yep. Waukee's playing very well. I think they're going to continue to play well and move into the semifinals. And then Northwest against Johnston. We talked about that at length.
Like I said, I just think Northwest has too much talent for them. I know Coach Henderson's going to have a plan and they're going to fight like crazy, but at the end of the night, I got to take Northwest.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same too. Pat, you guys had the game the other night. I was on at halftime with you with Northwest. Colin got into big foul trouble, yet I actually think that was good for them because the whole team just rose up. I think they're ready, and I think that game proved that they're ready. So I think they're going to beat Johnston.
Yeah, they're hungry. The runner-up last year, big expectations, of course. Almost, as Raz says, it's tough to win.
Hard.
Especially when you have these big expectations. I think in a very close game, because Coach Henderson will make it a close game, but I think that Northwest Waukee will win with one of the bigs will tip one in at the buzzer and win that one. Okay, let's go to the semifinals. We're thinking Cedar Falls against Dubuque Senior. Boy, what a matchup.
Once again, I think it's a game that's going to be closer than people think. I really do. Senior has the ability to beat Cedar Falls, but at the end of the day, I'm calling Cedar Falls in a very close game.
I thought about this one a lot. I'm just because I don't want everybody to go chalk. I'm going to go with Dubuque Senior. I got a feeling Porter's going to have a few threes, and I think they're playing with kind of house money. That's their last year. Tevin's been really tough. As long as Tevin doesn't get into foul trouble, I think I'm going to pick Dubuque Senior with the upset.
As far as what we know, heck, it could be Urbandale versus Dowling in this game.
Sure
but
could.
If we're looking forward to that, and I agree with all of you, I was still mesmerized by watching Cedar Falls' class. If they play anything close to what they did when I happened to watch them against Northwest Waukee, I think Cedar Falls it's going to be two bigs versus one, and I think Cedar Falls will move on. Then you'll have the Battle of Waukee. That place the Casey Center will be just jam-packed. Remember a few years ago, but Northwest Waukee versus Waukee.
I tell you what, now in the last game that they played, Waukee beat them. Okay, so I think it's a rivalry game, obviously. You got a revenge game for Northwest. You got talent on both sides. You got two good coaches. I just think that Rice and Davis might be a little much for them. I'm going to go with Northwest in a close game.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same. I think it is going to be an incredibly close game there. Both teams have 5 really great players starting. So there could be a wild card player on either team that rises up. And I'm going to go with Northwest just because they've been there. They got the experience. I think they're hungry. But, man, that's going to be an all-time game.
Yep. And again, it wouldn't surprise either of us if this is Prairie versus Johnston. So
no doubt. No doubt.
True.
So I see Northwest moving on to, I just think the firepower and the determination that this basketball team has right now, bringing us to a final. If it is a rematch, we don't know, but Cedar Falls versus Northwest or Dubuque Senior. Rav, what's your thoughts?
I'm going to tell you what, I think this is going to be an incredible matchup. I think this is the year for Northwest. And like I told Coach Watson last week and Waukee after the game, at the end of the night, Coach Watson's going to take the trophy and hold it high. The Wolves are bringing home the title.
I'm going to pick the Wolves. I do think, if I'm right on my predictions, Dubuque Senior, it's a lot there's 2 bigs. I think they just got too much for Senior. And I think the Wolves are going to bring home the title.
This was more of a business decision for me because I've seen what the viewing metrics that the Wolves have brought to us in our 5 broadcasts for them. So I've got Coach Watson's a dear friend. We followed his basketball team. Ras, you've had him up to your invitational for years, and I'm pulling for everyone, but I'd love to see the Wolves win the state title and Coach Watson get one with that great basketball team. But like we said, we don't know. Heck, Prairie, Johnston, Dowling, any of those teams could win this 4A. It's just going to be a fascinating 4A basketball tournament. Just looking forward to it. I'll be following it and listening to Raz and John. I'm sure we'll be talking.
Yeah.
So exciting watching the 4A tournament this year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic, guys. I think with the transfer portal change in basketball, we're going to see fewer and fewer D1 kids that are going in. The Big Ten only has 25 coming in next year as freshmen. There's 2 at the state tournament this year.
Right.
There's a host of top D2 players there that would have been D1 players 5 years ago before the portal. You got Jacobson, you got Pat Schiltz, you got Kimbrough, you got Gertis. Gertis, he's probably right now popping Fresca because you and I are going to the tournament this afternoon.
Yep.
You got all sorts of talent here up and down the line. I think this is one of the best 4A state tournaments in the last 15 years.
Agree. Totally agree.
Looking forward to it.
Hey guys, thank you so much for the show. I really appreciate it. We love what you do at Midwest Sports. We love being partners and participating on that. You guys do an incredible job. Thank you so much for the podcast. And Coach, we'll be listening to you. I'm sure Pat's going to give you some kind of tips because he's not on the broadcast this year.
No tips needed with Raz. You just throw him a softball and let him go.
As long as they got a 5-second delay on there, I'll be just fine.
Yeah. I appreciate you coming on. You're coaching basketball in Florida on vacation. You're coming back to the state tournament, and then you're flying back to Florida to coach basketball. And Pat, thanks for doing this from vacation. So thank you both guys.
Well, not on vacation yet, but I just cleaned the golf clubs and I'm heading out here tomorrow.
All right. See you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. See you, Raz.
Yep. Bye.
Bye-bye.